Well, just moments ago, we got news from President Obama that there is no guarantee that Social Security checks will continue to go out on August 3rd. Now, that is the day after the U.S. would hit this default deadline that has been announced on the debt of August 2nd. Now, on the other side of the argument, there's a group called the National Tea Party, Alert.com, and they are today warning Americans this, quote, if Republicans cede to Obama's demands to raise America's debt ceiling above the already staggering current limit of $14.3 trillion, Obamacare will be funded, the bailouts will continue, and out-of-control federal bureaucrats will stay fat and happy. That comes from the nationalteaparty.com. Let's bring in somebody who has been a major voice in this debate, Congressman Alan West of Florida. Congressman, welcome. Good to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Martha, for having me.
So just moments ago, it crossed the wires. It said President Obama says that there's no guarantee that folks will get their Social Security checks come August 3rd. Now, that's going to scare people. Do you believe that that's the case?
I don't believe that's the case, but what I do know is that you saw on Sunday with Secretary Geithner doing his trip around all the Sunday shows, and now with the president, that all they're trying to do is have leadership by intimidation and scare tactics. And that's not what a leader really does. A leader looks for viable solutions, and it is important that the president and his Secretary of Treasury understand that it is their job to prioritize the spending of the United States of America. And if this president was successful in his economic policies, we would not have record deficits of the past 3 years of $1.29 trillion, $1.42 trillion, and $1.65 trillion. And the debt that he has brought upon this country since he has been president is what has brought us to this critical point.
You know, the administration is bristling today at that idea that this is their problem and that the GOP is trying to sort of push this back on the president and say, you know, it's the administration that decides whether or not to raise the debt ceiling. They're pushing away that notion. What do you think about that?
Well, the thing is this. We're trying to come to the administration with the viable solutions. If we want to have that short-term fix or putting the Band-Aid on the sucking chest wound and just raising the debt limit, that's not going to solve the long-term problems that we have. We've got to have spending control measures that are put in place. We've got to look at capping federal government spending. We've got to look at having a balanced budget amendment because no American can run their household and no person can run their business like we're running the federal government. And we should not be talking about tax hikes when we're in this very fragile recovery.
You know, there's probably 90-something people in the House of Representatives that say, you know, no, basically no to any increase in the debt ceiling. And then there's another group that seems to be saying, you know, possibly yes, but only with promises for a balanced budget agreement and that we won't see any tax hikes in this. Are there the numbers? Is there anything? And if there is anything, what could persuade you to sign on to an increase in this debt ceiling?
Well, you just talked about it. There's an agreement on principles where we've got to have the right type of spending cuts. And I'm not just talking about the fairy dust over 10 years type of number. I'm talking about what are going to be the immediate spending cuts within this year, within the next 5 years, and then out to the next 10 years. I think that another thing that's important coming off the heels of this abysmal jobs report is that we cut the corporate business tax rate from 35% down somewhere between 20 to 22%, and we eradicate all loopholes and subsidies. Then we have to have that cap on federal government spending. We have to have the balanced budget amendment, and we steer clear of tax hikes. And I think those are very viable solutions.
I don't know that there's anything that's going back and forth right now that looks like you're going to get something that is that's big a deal. So are you concerned, Congressman West, about what happens come August 2nd, and that if it is, you know, the situation where people stop getting Social Security checks, that folks like you will pay for it come election time?
No, my concern is that we have a president that is not willing to do his job, and that is to prioritize the spending, that he is digging in his heel, being very intransigent, and he's being a rigid ideologue. And he must understand that every single one of his economic policies have failed. So I think it's time that he realizes that he does not have the moral high ground in this argument, and that we do have the right type of viable solutions in the near term and for the long term.
All right, well, let me ask you this. In the caucus meeting that you were in this morning, what did you walk out of there with in terms of whether or not there's going to be any deal? Are we going to get any deal, or are so many Republicans in the House basically digging in their heels and saying no deal?
Well, I think the thing is right now is we understand that there's some principles that we're looking for, pretty much so exactly what I just articulated to you. We got a blow-by-blow detailed understanding of the 3 different courses of action that were presented, the Biden plan, the Reid plan, and then President Obama's plan. But everyone continues to talk about tax hikes, and that's a non-starter. Not just for us as a House GOP, but also for the American people.
All right, so that's a non-starter. We'll see where this goes. Congressman West, thank you for sharing those thoughts with us this morning.